But people had been saying for quite some time that it was time for new leadership, to have the top three Democrats in the House, all of them over 80 or very close to 80 years of age. As I said, all three combined, you're talking about almost 250 years. And they have been diligent servants. But you do have to have the next generation leaders. It's a little hard. Congressman Jeffries, look, he's 54. And a lot of people don't understand, Congress, that when you talk about leadership, you're talking about folks who typically are going to be, first of all, you're lucky to have leaders who are in their mid 60s in Congress because it's based upon seniority.
Yes. And so think about another thing that's happening here. None of the three are saying they're leaving Congress, so they will be there to advise and support. So can you imagine being Hakeem Jeffries with all of his own skills and relationships to be able to lean over, tap someone on the shoulder who has been doing this for decades? For Congressman Conyers, Clyburn. I'm from Michigan. That was a slip. To have Congressman Clyburn with all of his history. I served in Black Caucus with John Lewis, John Conyers, with Rangel, with Clyburn. These amazing historians who have not only read, they know and met people and have lived through the history of so much of this country. And to have that base of experience there who will continue to stand with you that's just a gift.
And it was Congresswoman Joyce Beatty who said that there's really little doubt that the entire CBC will be standing behind Congressman Hakeem Jeffries to assume the top position in the Democratic caucus, or the Democratic side.
We've been planning for a long time because, Nancy Pelosi had made that promise that she was going to run for another 2 terms and she was, not going to run again. So obviously we in the Black Caucus and in other caucuses in Congress, they've been putting out their, what's the plan? What are we going to do? And it's a good time when there's transition and it's not chaos. And so for me today, I felt like it was transition. I didn't see like I'm walking out the door, you're on your own, I've done mine, now you do yours. It was thoughtful. And so I think we're in a good place as Dems. And it's going to be hard, whoever is the leader, because I've been in the minority. I've served under Republican and Democratic presidents, and having the minority in the House is not a good place, especially with the temperament of the Republicans now in the House. We're going to have to fight off investigations, impeachments, taking away committee assignments, because they've had a few years of piling up anger and resentment. And then you got the Trump factor built into that. So, Hakeem is going to need all the support he can get, and the Black Caucus will be there for him.
Appreciate it. Thank you so very much. And of course, you also have just a couple more months in your term retiring from Congress, and we thank you for your leadership and the folks there in Michigan. Appreciate it as well.
And I know you talk to people all the time. If I could just give you this, because I'm a firm believer of recognizing those who helped us through this cycle. Michigan went all the way blue. It's just amazing. You have always showed up for us. You keep the line of knowledge going where people can be educated, hopefully motivated, and your commitment to this democracy, because we can't do it alone as elected officials. Just want to say thank you, because you were part of stopping the red wave, and thank God we're we're not in the best place, but man, we're so much better than we could have been. And so I just want to say thank you to you. You are a warrior, and history, whether they say it now or say it later, will show when Black America needed someone, you show up. So thank you.
Congresswoman, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much for that. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Be blessed and happy holidays.
All right, likewise. Safe travels. Folks, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries is, like I said, he's from Brooklyn. He is often known to drop references to Biggie Smalls in a lot of his speeches. And he has not been shy in going after Republicans. We pulled together a few clips of some of his greatest hits. And trust me, he had no issue hitting Republicans.
And if Justice Thomas really wants to deal with bullying in America, or this problem of people supposedly unwilling to accept outcomes that they don't like, I've got some advice for Justice Thomas. Start in your own home. Have a conversation with Jeannie Thomas. She refused to accept the legitimacy of the 2020 presidential election. Why? Because she didn't like the outcome. And so instead, she tried to steal the election, overthrow the United States government, and install a tyrant. That's bullying. That's being unwilling to accept an outcome because you don't like the results, because the former twice impeached so-called president of the United States of America lost legitimately to Joe Biden. How did she respond? Instead, she said the Bidens should face a military tribunal in Guantanamo Bay on trumped-up charges of sedition. You've got to be kidding me. And lastly, let me ask this question of Brother Thomas. Why are you such a hater? Hate on civil rights, hate on women's rights, hate on reproductive rights, hate on voting rights, hate on marital rights, hate on equal protection under the law, hate on liberty and justice for all, hate on free and fair elections. Why are you such a hater? And you think you can get away with it, escape public scrutiny? Because you think that shamelessness is your superpower?
Mr. Chairman, a point of order.
Here's a news flash
Mr. Chairman,
straight from the House Judiciary Committee.
Point of order.
Truth
Time,
crushed to the ground will rise
Time.
again, and truth will be your kryptonite. How the heck did you become the head of the Department of Justice? So hopefully you can help me work through this confusion.
All right, well, Congressman,
Mr. Whitaker, that was a statement, not a question.
Okay.
I assume you know the difference.
Oh, Erica, that is the kind of shade I really hope he continues to show as a Democratic leader.
Listen, because we definitely need it, right? And we knew that this was coming since 2018, since the rollout of this particular platform, Roland Martin Unfiltered. We've been talking about this. You know, Hakeem Jeffries had been eyed. He'd been doing all the things, and I know Dr. Carr is going to go into greater detail around Hakeem Jeffries and his trajectory into being the first Black Speaker of the House. But this is the path that he's been on, and we just talked about it. Reese just talked about the whole decorum, the really need for a breath of new energy, and it's to give respect and give flowers where they're due, right? The $1.2 billion that Leader Pelosi raised for the Democratic Party, the way that she has, championed her particular congressional district for 35 years as the leader, for a significant period of time, the first woman leader. But this is now the time for change, particularly since the Republicans have told you they are agents of chaos. They are domestic terrorists. This is the way that it will be. They have said from education levels. They have said from the basic human rights level. Lest we forget, 2020 Republicans were trying to shut people down from being able to vote in a very safe way, absentee ballot. So Hakeem Jeffries, I think, saying all that to say that Hakeem Jeffries is definitely going to be welcomed fresh air into the party, because the fight that we're going to have to fight is going to be a fight that definitely requires a level of energy, and really being able to say that this is really how we need to go into these new battles with the Republicans. We can't go in playing classical music. We got to have on Life or Death, Biggie's classic.
The thing that I think that when we look at this, Greg, and really break down this transition was smart. Had to have the three of them say, we're leaving together, usher in new leadership, younger, African-American, male, Hispanic male, I think a white woman, and those, they still have to vote, but pretty much they've already decided who the three are going to be. And they're going to need fighters. You're going to need people who are going to be on the battlefield for the next 2 years, fighting diligently with the Republicans. And Greg, I also say this here, with Congressman Jeffries being leader, we can also now get to see the leader talk to black-owned media. Because I was very critical of Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who did not consistently talk to black-owned media. So thank goodness with this leadership change, we're going to see that, because we won't be shut out from the top Democratic position in the House.
One can hope. One can hope. And of course, we've seen Brother Hakeem, Congressman Jeffries, on your platforms. So, yeah, I think that's probably true. This, of course, has been in the plan, in the works for a very long time. As Erica said, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries, in his rise in the New York State Assembly, then, won that congressional seat, ran, against established leadership in the Democratic Party, and then beat Charles Barron in 2012 and has been moving up the ranks very carefully. He probably is closer to being a centrist, although he is a member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. You can't take that away from him, and should credit him for that. But he's not the son of, he's not the son of an old school fist fighter like Nancy Pelosi, the daughter of Thomas DeSandro, the former mayor of Baltimore. She rep California, but she's really Baltimore. And the thing about Nancy Pelosi is she stand up and make you salute. I think that not only has Hakeem Jeffries learned a lot from Nancy Pelosi, he will continue to learn a lot, because she's about to now not be a backbencher, but basically, I would dare say probably not as influential as Don Corleone to Michael Corleone when he became the consigliere in The Godfather, but she's not going anywhere. And they planned this all out. If the Democrats had kept the House, then of course they were going to try to push some legislation through. They kept both houses, and Biden signed some legislation. But if they were to lose, I'm sure this was the trigger all along. As you say, they're going to put Catherine Clark, probably from Massachusetts, in as number 2, and then Pete Aguilar from California is number 3. And the challenge, however, is that Brother Jeffries has 2 years to show he can herd those cats. Nancy Pelosi herding cats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ayanna Pressley and Rashida Tlaib and them, the squad, that's a little different, because in the end, they stood up and saluted on most stuff. Hakeem Jeffries, particularly given, the fact that with his, Team Blue Pack crew, they supported incumbents, not all incumbents. And they didn't support Couliar in Texas because he got all kind of scandals, but they didn't also go out and to rush to the aid necessarily of progressives. That's going to, we got to see how he manages his own emotions and really keeps that caucus together. Finally, there are some new voices in the federal legislature. My former student, Summer Lee, who's coming in from the 12th Pennsylvania, she's joining the squad. Hakeem Jeffries is going to need more than hip hop quotes to keep the Democratic Party together, just like the Republican Party has a hard white nationalist flank. The Democratic Party, and this isn't an equivalency at all, I'm just saying they've got a progressive flank that is deeply suspicious of Hakeem Jeffries, and he's going to have to show, he's got 24 months to show his political mettle. I think he's up to the challenge, but I think the jury is out. This next 2 years is probably best they lost. It's probably best they lost the House of Representatives, because this gives them 2 years, particularly with Trump around, DeSantis and them, to hide behind those boogeymen before they reemerge. And I think they will reemerge, and Hakeem Jeffries is going to be the speaker, and then that's when the fun's going to start.
I think it's a trip, Reese, when you look at folks like Yank Uger of the Young Turks, who's just going off, going crazy. He tweeted, I don't know why any progressive would vote for Hakeem Jeffries for leader. He is diametrically opposed to us on most of our policy priorities and represents the corporate wing of the party. And then, so he's been, tweeting up a storm. He said, let's be honest, progressive leadership in Congress has been a disaster. We've gotten almost none of our priorities passed. We have not used any of our power or leverage. They went with the trust leadership strategy, which was both naive and craven. It led to zero results. And here's the whole deal. Yank is wrong. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this repeatedly. And this is the hard thing. Democratic progressives are going to have to learn and understand the math. The Democratic Party, and I don't care. Y'all can sit here and yell, holler, scream, tell me I'm wrong. This is a fact. The Democratic Party simply has a much larger tent than the Republicans. That's true. In the Republican Party, you're either right or hard right. There are no moderates in the Republican Party. They don't exist. Now, on the Democratic side, you have moderate Dems, centrist Dems. You have left Dems, progressive Dems. You've got far left Dems. And the fact of the matter is, if you want to get something done, you need 218. 218. It's called math. Okay? The progressives simply don't have the math.
Neither do the centrists.
So there's a notion that, right. And the centrists don't have the math.
Nobody has the math.
Right.
Exactly.
Nobody has the math.
Right.
So when you don't have the math, what do you have to do?
Exactly.
You got to negotiate. You got to compromise. Yes. And you do. It's just a fact. And so I'll say this, Yank Uger. It's also an insult to black people. With the attacks on Congressman Jeffries, because I know a lot of black folks got mad respect for Congressman Jeffries and what he's been able to do. And anybody knows you ain't black and you climb up the leadership ladder of any political party just because. Reese, go ahead.
First of all, Chank is full of shit. He need to comment. He need to comment on bestiality and other shit because he is not a real progressive. And as I've said many times, there is a white supremacy problem on the progressive side. This is the same motherfucker that was just last week talking about he supports Rick Caruso over Karen Bass. So he doesn't like black progressives. And be clear, black politicians are far more progressive than half of these white politicians that you never hear them say boo about. Okay? So Hakeem Jeffries, if we want to look at the facts, his voting record, if you put up against a progressive that the white people are okay with, like Congresswoman Jayapal, it's no shade to her, but they vote the same way 98% of the time. The only time they don't vote the same way is that a lot of these progressives don't vote for the National Defense Authorization. They usually vote no on that. So that's the only real major difference. So it's not about policy. If you want to talk about what progressives have gotten accomplished, let's talk about what black people have gotten out of the Congress. Not out of the Senate because it's being blocked, but out of the House. We got anti-lynching legislation. We got voting rights legislation. We got a number of things. The list can go on and on and on. I ain't got all that much time. So we got what we need in terms of what pushes us forward. We just had the exit polling on what black people are prioritizing. But with these white progressives and these white supremacist aggressives, because that's what they're for first and foremost, they haven't gotten their Medicare for all. Okay, well, that's too bad. That ain't happening. Okay, black people, we ain't got reparations for the alphabet soup gang. They get to talk about reparations and y'all got Medicare for all. But guess what? That is a drop in the bucket of the problems that we have to address in the United States of America. So I do take exception to calling Hakeem Jeffries a centrist when his voting record is progressive, when his priorities, much of his legislation that he focuses on is on criminal justice reform, is on civil rights, with a particular emphasis on racial equity and reforming systems. And so where I'm not going to sit up there and let these white progressives or white presenting, white adjacent, whatever the hell the situation might be, progressives sit up there and slander this black man, like they do all black politicians, as neoliberal corporate shields and centrists and this, that, and the other. And they don't have any receipts to back it up other than their stupid ass opinions that don't count for nothing. I'm not going to let them do that. Okay. So Hakeem Jeffries, he's worked his way up there. And I believe that he will stay true to what brought him there. And that boogie down Bronx, BK, New York, tough rumble tumbleness. I think he's going to deliver. But as Dr. Carr says, he does have a challenge. He has a challenge because you do have a faction of the party that adheres to the Twitter progressive gangs that make a lot of money fundraising, disproportionately fundraising for what they actually need to win their races. And it's profitable. And it gives them more popularity to be contrarian and to sit up there and trash everybody else that ain't getting their little wish list. So I do think he has a huge challenge ahead, but I think that it's great that he's going to have the opportunity to learn from the best, which Speaker Pelosi is, and continue to build that pipeline. And I don't want to just see him up there. Now the next who's in number, rank 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's get some black women in there. Let's build a pipeline so that we are at the table as well.
I just think that, again, on a day like this, it's just sort of silly to sit here and condemn because, again, you can, at the end of the day, the leader has to get things done. And guess what? If you want to call Pelosi progressive, that's fine. But Pelosi also blocked the ban on House members trading stock.
Exactly. Well, let's be very
clear. A lot
of
progressives wanted that. I mean,
Yeah.
Greg, go ahead.
Voting, no, I was going to say the voting record is progressive for sure. Hakeem Jeffries has pretty much been in lockstep. On foreign policy, there will never be an agreement. I mean, in foreign policy, the Democrats and Republicans are virtually indistinguishable. You talked last week, Roland, about the millions that AIPAC dumped in that primary to try to stop Summer Lee. But at the very end, Hakeem Jeffries, like Obama and everybody else, came in and campaigned for her. He's a pragmatist. So not on his policy record, but on his politics. His politics are very much, and that Team Blue Pack that he has accepts corporate money. They're never going to block corporate money. That's why Uyghur and the Young Turks and them call them corporate Dems. I agree. That we shouldn't even be listening to nothing they say. They're just flamethrowers. But I also think that some of these progressives, they're not lockstep in just social media. When you start looking at the policy that they have worked their way up and done, I think, as you say, Roland, the challenge that Hakeem Jeffries is going to have, Congressman Jeffries is going to have, is keeping that caucus together. And for all of the rhetoric and all the arguing the Democrats do, Nancy Pelosi was a thug. And at the end of the day, she could get them all to stand up and salute. Hakeem Jeffries has thug tendencies, but he is 5 years old compared to the million-year-old Nancy Pelosi, which is why they stepped down together because they ain't going nowhere. Understand that it's only late breaking news for the news media. They've been plotting this all along. If they lost, this was going to be the move. The question we have now is whether Hakeem Jeffries can thread that needle, because what we haven't discussed, and I'm not going to bring it up here except by innuendo, is the fact that when these white folks decide they want to come for Hakeem Jeffries, and he has spent his entire political career trying to guard against that by doing what he needed to do what he's done, they're going to attack him from a place that most people are not looking for where they come, and that most people are not looking for. And I hope and pray that not only he withstands that, but he can transcend it. But quite frankly, we just got to see. Nobody knows. This is the first time he's going to be in this position, and he's got 24 months to figure it out.
But that's for everybody. I mean, it's going to be hard for anybody to step into Pelosi's shoes. And so I think he does have an advantage of a 2-year training with the training wheels on and with the tricycle instead of the bicycle. He can get it on the Harley yet. He's still got some training wheels. So I don't think that's a unique to Hakeem Jeffries issue that he's facing.
You're right. You're absolutely right, Reese. It would have been anybody. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
But I do believe that what is important here. What is important right here is going to be they need fighters. The Republicans for the next 2 years are going to be engaged in culture wars. They're going to be engaged in investigations, and you're going to need people who are ready to do battle. And I believe that Congressman Hakeem Jeffries absolutely is one of those people.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Don't wait till November 8th. We can vote today, y'all. Early vote started this week.
We're on Savannah State University's campus. We will be dorm storming today, giving our treats for everyone. We hope to see everyone at the polls when it comes to November.
If you believe we got power, let them know. Make some noise. Put a fist up. I need to see see a fist in the air because we got power. Come on, you put it up. Come get your shirt. We're out here in the streets of Savannah, Georgia. James, do not forget to go vote. I got you. If we vote the right people in, we can make a change. We can get these resources in our community.
I am a woman, and it is important that we have the say-so of what we want to do with our bodies.
We're concentrating on entrepreneurism, providing young people with resources and training that they need in order to change their trajectories. We want Black down. Democracy is on the ballot. Voting rights is on the ballot. Voting suppression is on the ballot. I am most passionate about those three combined because they all impact each other.
Savannah is my home. I care about my community, and I care about representation in my community.
Our voices are still going to be heard no matter what kind of obstacles try to come up against us to stop us from voting. We're still going to be standing our ground.
I see the effort that's being made to keep our communities from voting. So that makes me realize it's even more important, because if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be fighting to make sure we could vote.
This doesn't stop this year. This is a forever movement.
We're going to exert our power as a people, walk in our rightful place. We're going to change our communities, fight for our communities, and build our communities.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?